Hey everyone, All in Arrowhead here. Week 2 is in the books, and honestly, the NFL just keeps delivering. We had shootouts, we had comebacks, we had blowouts, and a couple of games that had us on the edge of our seats until the very last play. What I love about this season so far is how unpredictable it's been. My record for Week 2 really can't attest to that, but each season there's always a game or two that becomes unpredictable. You've got teams that we thought would dominate who are suddenly stumbling, and you've got teams people counted out who are making some real noise early. That's the beauty of the NFL. No 2 weeks are ever the same, and the storylines just keep building. Heading into Week 3, you can really start to feel the urgency for certain teams. 0-2 doesn't mean your season's over, but history says it puts you in a hole, and 0-3 is almost impossible to dig out of. On the flip side, some of these 2-0 teams are looking like early juggernauts, and every win now sets them up for home field advantage come playoff time. Let's get into the games! This one feels like a crossroads game for Miami. Sitting at 0-2, they've shown us glimpses of the high-octane offense that made them dangerous last year, but it's been inconsistent and the defense hasn't held up when it's mattered most. The pressure is starting to mount. The AFC is loaded, and you can't afford to fall too far behind early. Now they head to Buffalo, and it doesn't get much tougher than that. The Bills are clicking in every phase of the game right now. Josh Allen looks sharp, the offensive rhythm is there, and that defense is flying around and making quarterbacks uncomfortable. Miami absolutely has the speed to stretch the field and make this interesting, but the question is whether they can execute for 4 full quarters without the costly mistakes that have haunted them so far. The margin for error against Buffalo is razor thin. I think the Dolphins will put up a fight, but the Bills are just too complete right now. I'm picking Buffalo to win, moving to 3-0, while Miami finds themselves in a dangerous 0-3 hole. This is a big test for both sides because it's not just about talent, it's about direction. The Bengals are off to a strong 2-0 start, and while Joe Burrow will be out for a couple of months with turf toe, this team has shown that they can still find ways to win. They're leaning on their defense, playing opportunistic football, and avoiding the kind of mistakes that flip games. For Minnesota, sitting at 1-1, this matchup is about bouncing back. They handled Chicago in Week 1, but getting dominated 22-6 by Atlanta in Week 2 raised some concerns. That game showed that if the Vikings fall behind early, they can get one-dimensional, and when they're forced to chase, they lose balance. The challenge here is that Cincinnati thrives in exactly those kinds of spots. They'll let their defense dictate, and I feel that Jake Browning is capable of hitting Jamar Chase or T. Higgins for the big momentum play. Minnesota's crowd is always a factor, and at 1-1, they're not in panic mode yet, but this feels like a matchup where Cincinnati's steadiness carries them through. I'm picking the Bengals to take it, moving to 3-0, while the Vikings drop to 1-2. Houston is now 0-2 after that heartbreaking loss to Tampa at home, where they came up just short despite leading late. This is the kind of defeat that can sting for a young team still trying to find its footing. Now they turn around and face Jacksonville, a squad sitting at 1-1 after falling to Cincinnati last week. The Jaguars have already proven they can compete in this division and win the games that matter, while the Texans are still learning how to do that. CJ Stroud has shown flashes, but until Houston can finish games like Tampa Bay just did, they're going to keep struggling in crunch time. Jacksonville has the experience, the roster depth, and home field advantage. I think Trevor Lawrence steadies the ship here, leading the Jags to a rebound win that puts them at 2-1, while the Texans slide further to 0-3. Here's what nobody saw coming. The Colts sitting at 2-0. They've been scrappy, they've been tough, and they've pulled out close games, which says a lot about their confidence right now. Winning those one-score battles early in the season can set the tone for the whole year. The Titans, on the other hand, are sitting at 0-2, and the frustration is obvious. This is a proud team with a veteran coach, and they're not used to being in this position. You know they're going to come out swinging because 0-3 in this division could be devastating. Expect them to try and grind out long drives to keep Indy's offense off the field. But here's the thing, the Colts have shown that they can take a punch and still find ways to answer. They may not be flashy, but they're effective. I think that resilience shows up again here. It'll be tight, but I like the Colts to keep the momentum rolling, move to 3-0, and put Tennessee in a very tough spot at 0-3. The Raiders are now 1-1 after falling to the Chargers 20-9. It was a tough loss where the offense just couldn't find a rhythm, and that's concerning for a team that needs to show consistency early in the year. The Commanders, meanwhile, come in at 1-1 themselves after splitting their first 2 games. Washington has shown flashes, but they're still trying to find balance between a defense that can hold teams down and an offense that needs to step up in crunch time. This matchup feels like 2 teams that are still in that prove-it phase, both trying to figure out whether they'll be competitive this season or slide into mediocrity. For me, it comes down to which side has the more complete roster right now, and that's Washington. I think the Commanders do just enough to frustrate the Raiders' offense and come out with the win. That puts Washington at 2-1, while Las Vegas drops to 1-2. This is what you'd call a heavyweight clash early in the season. 2 unbeaten teams squaring off, and both looking like they belong in that upper tier of contenders. The Rams have been one of the biggest surprises so far, starting 2-0 with convincing wins. Matthew Stafford looks rejuvenated, and the offense is balanced, mixing explosive plays with steady drives. What stands out most, though, is how aggressive their defense has been in creating momentum-swinging plays. The Eagles, meanwhile, are 2-0, but haven't made it look easy. Both of their wins came in gritty, grinded-out fashion, and while Jalen Hurts and the offense have done enough, they're still searching for that dominant identity we saw last season. This game feels like it could come down to composure. Can the Rams' young playmakers handle the pressure of going into Philly, or will the Eagles' experience shine through when it matters? I think this one's tight throughout, but home field advantage and the Eagles' ability to close late give them the edge. I'm taking Philadelphia to move to 3-0, while the Rams suffer their first loss at 2-1. Atlanta has been one of the early season stories, and they're 1-1 because they've leaned into their identity. Tough defense, a physical run game, and just enough from the passing attack to stay balanced. Their Week 2 win over Minnesota wasn't flashy, but it was decisive and it showed they can control tempo and wear a team down. The Panthers at 0-2 are on the opposite end of the spectrum. They've been scrappy, they've had moments, but they can't seem to finish drives or find that rhythm to carry them through 4 quarters. That puts a lot of pressure on a young team still figuring things out. Carolina desperately needs a spark at home, but the Falcons have the look of a team that knows who they are and trusts their formula. Unless the Panthers can suddenly flip the switch offensively, this feels like a game where Atlanta keeps things simple, leans on their strengths, and pulls away in the second half. I've got the Falcons going to 2-1, while Carolina drops to 0-3. This is one of those matchups that feels like it belongs in the early 2000s. 2 blue-collar, defensive-minded teams going toe-to-toe. Both squads are 1-1, and both have reasons to be encouraged while still having things to fix. Pittsburgh struggled in Week 2 with a loss to Seattle. The Patriots, meanwhile, got a huge divisional win over Miami to even things up. The difference here might be who can sustain drives and stay out of 3rd and long situations. Neither offense is built to chase points, so whichever team establishes the run and avoids turnovers is likely to win this slugfest. I see this being a low-scoring, grinded-out type of game, the kind where field position and special teams could swing it. In that kind of setting, I trust the Steelers just a little bit more right now. Steelers get the away victory, moving to 2-1, while the Patriots fall to 1-2. Green Bay has looked sharp to start the year, sitting at 2-0 with wins that highlight their efficiency on both sides of the ball. Jordan Love has done a great job managing the offense, spreading the ball around and letting his playmakers do the heavy lifting. More importantly, the Packers' defense has been opportunistic, forcing turnovers and setting up short fields. The Browns at 0-2 are already in desperation mode. Their defense has talent but has struggled to get off the field, and offensively, it's been frustrating to watch them stall out in key moments. Against a team as disciplined as the Packers, you can't afford to make those mistakes. This has all the makings of a game where Green Bay just plays steady, takes advantage of Cleveland's miscues, and controls things start to finish. I'm picking the Packers to stay unbeaten at 3-0, while the Browns slide to 0-3. The Jets are staring down an 0-2 start, and things don't get easier with Tampa Bay coming up next. The Buccaneers just survived a thriller against Houston, pulling off a 20-19 win thanks to Rachaad White's game-winning touchdown in the final moments. That kind of finish says a lot about Tampa Bay. They're showing resilience and the ability to close out games even when things aren't pretty. On the flip side, the Jets haven't shown they can do that yet. Their defense is solid, sure, but you can't win games if you can't consistently move the ball and finish drives. Tampa Bay is 2-0, and they're showing they can win close games, while the Jets look like a team already teetering. I think the Bucs keep the momentum rolling and move to 3-0, while New York falls to 0-3. What a big win for the Chargers, who beat the Raiders 20-9 to move to 2-0. They're starting this season with poise, and even though the offense hasn't exploded yet, they're taking care of business. The defense came to play against Vegas, forcing stops and setting the tone for a comfortable win. Denver, on the other hand, is 1-1 after narrowly falling to Indianapolis on a last-second field goal last week. They've shown resilience, but they're still inconsistent when it comes to closing games. Facing a Chargers team that looks disciplined and opportunistic is a real test for the Broncos' offense. Justin Herbert and company may not have been flashy yet, but they're proving they can grind out wins in a variety of ways, and that's dangerous for the rest of the division. I've got the Chargers taking this one and improving to 3-0, while Denver falls to 1-2. The Saints are one of those teams you just expect to be competitive every year, but 0-2 has them already staring at a critical moment. They've been close in both games, but close doesn't matter when you're staring at the standings. If they fall to 0-3, the season could start spiraling. Seattle, meanwhile, rebounded from a Week 1 loss with a strong Week 2 win over Pittsburgh, and that confidence boost should carry over here. They've got the kind of balanced attack that makes them tough to prepare for. A running game that can chew clock and a passing game that can stretch the field when needed. The Saints are desperate, but desperation doesn't always translate into wins, especially on the road. Unless they suddenly clean up the miscues that have plagued them, I see the Seahawks controlling this one. Seattle moves to 2-1, while the Saints dig themselves deeper at 0-3. Dallas might be the toughest team to get a read on right now. Their Week 1 loss was frustrating, but in Week 2 they bounced back in a big way, showing resilience in an overtime thriller against the Giants. Sitting at 1-1, this feels like a turning point game for them. Win here, and they start building momentum again. The Bears, though, are reeling at 0-2, and it's been ugly. Their defense has been shredded 2 weeks in a row, and their offense hasn't looked capable of trading blows with anyone. That's a dangerous formula when you're about to face a Cowboys team with a pass rush that can wreck games. Unless Chicago can establish a run game early and protect their quarterback, this has the makings of another long afternoon. I see Dallas keeping their foot on the gas and getting to 2-1, while the Bears remain winless at 0-3. This might be the game of the week because it's a battle between two unbeaten NFC West rivals. Both teams are 2-0, but both have looked convincing doing it. The Cardinals have been balanced, leaning on a strong ground game and efficient quarterback play to control tempo. The 49ers, meanwhile, just look like a machine. Their defense is suffocating, their offense is creative, and they can beat you in so many different ways. This feels like the kind of matchup where every possession matters because neither team is going to give much away for free. Arizona will be up for it, and divisional games are always unpredictable, but right now San Francisco just looks like the more complete team. I'm picking the 49ers to take this showdown, staying unbeaten at 3-0, while the Cardinals take their first loss at 2-1. 2 teams meet here, and you can argue this is the most desperate matchup of the week. The Chiefs have been shockingly flat to start the year, losing 2 close games where their offense just couldn't finish drives. You know Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid aren't panicking, but 0-3 would be uncharted territory for this group, and the sense of urgency has to be sky high. The Giants, also 0-2, are coming off a heartbreaking overtime loss to Dallas, and while their offense showed signs of life, their defense couldn't get the key stops. This game is about who handles the pressure better. Both fan bases are restless, and both locker rooms know how much this matters. At the end of the day, I trust Kansas City's pedigree more. Mahomes isn't going to let this team spiral. I'll take the Chiefs to get right, move to 1-2, and hand the Giants a crushing 0-3 start. This one has sneaky game of the week potential. Both teams are 1-1, and both are capable of explosive football when they're locked in. The Lions are coming off a statement win in Week 2, dropping 52 points on the Bears. And you can tell that swagger from last year is still very much alive. Jared Goff looks comfortable, and when that offense gets rolling, they can overwhelm you quickly. The Ravens, though, are built to punch back. They've had a mixed start with a blowout win over Cleveland in Week 2, but some inconsistency overall. What makes Baltimore dangerous is their ability to control pace with the run game and then hit you over the top with Lamar Jackson's playmaking. This feels like one of those matchups where whoever establishes their style first wins. If it turns into a track meet, Detroit has the edge. If it's a grinded-out battle, Baltimore does. I'll lean towards the Lions in a throw. Detroit gets to 2-1, while the Ravens fall to 1-2.